All right. Knowles.
Good to see you. I'm
Hey.
glad you're back.
Man,
That was
oh,
very...
man. You know, I mean, if I had broken legs, I would crawl here, but without a voice.
I thought I was going to need to get superpowers, go back in a time machine, save you from whatever laryngitis you had, bring you back to do the show. I was going to try to bring you back to go watch Avengers in my place, but that didn't work. There's a line in Avengers where they say, no amount of money can buy you any time.
Huh?
That's, well, right.
Yeah.
It's also very true. No amount of money
That's
can buy
true.
me the 3 hours back that I spent watching that movie. So bad.
It's a bad movie.
It's terrible.
Did you see the last one, Infinity War?
No, absolutely
I was
not.
going to watch it, but actually Infinity War was the length. It's a reference to the length of the film. It was like,
The one good thing I can say about this movie is it was not Captain Marvel, which was the last one I saw, which was truly unwatchable. This one is really bad. It's a movie in 4 acts. Most movies are in 3 acts. This one goes on so long it becomes a movie in 4 acts. The first act is unbearable.
Yeah.
I was checking my watch every 5 minutes. It was just
you know,
that
Jacob
bad.
Aries waiting outside the hall with it.
He's going to pounce on me, I know. The first act was tedious, slow, unbearable, unwatchable. The second act was actually almost tolerable.
Yeah.
There were a handful of interesting moments. There was one actually sort of interesting scene that they completely bungled because the movie has nothing to do with reality, which is, I think, one of the overall critiques. The third act was inevitable. It's that act that is in all of these superhero movies that you're all expecting. And then the final act was total self-indulgence. Just saccharine sentimentality. It was so gross. I had to go to the dentist afterward. My teeth were rotting after that last act.
You know, it is, I mean, the other big story is Game of Thrones, which is so cynical and real and alive and vital and all this stuff. I can't.
Both the most popular things in the world. Avengers Endgame made $1.2 billion. The only redeeming quality is Scarlett Johansson. She's such a good actress, and she's hotter than a $2 pistol.
She is hot.
So it's really, I mean, her performance is good, but I can't think of many redeeming qualities. The shoehorned, politically correct messages were so unbearable.
When did Disney is ruining everything. They just like, you know, Marvel used to be kind of cool and sardonic, and now everything has to be like, everybody has to be like a fat gay like, superhero. You know?
I know. I don't know how they're going to make Brie Larson into some fat gay guy, but they'll figure out how to do it. This is one of the issues with those characters. Is with PC, if you're from an oppressed group, then you can't have anything bad about you. You can't have any character flaws.
Yep.
And Captain Marvel is the most obvious version of this. But this bleeds over more broadly into this movie and all the others, is that there's no stakes. People in this franchise, I'm not saying in this movie, but in this franchise, have died and come back to life.
Yeah, of course.
Right?
That's comic books forever. Right?
Comic books forever. So there is no stakes. Anytime there's a big battle and it's really consequential.
I agree. There's no death, and there's no sex either, because all the women are exactly the same as the men, except for having long hairs and nice bodies. You know,
right?
There's no difference between them. So there's no sex, there's no death. That's what life is. I mean, that's why tell a story without sex and death.
In this movie, this also is not a spoiler, the problem that this movie is taking on is how to deal with grief and regret and failure and looking at evil in the past and trying to grapple with what to do with that.
Okay.
And the answer it gives avoids the question entirely. It just doesn't, it's so shallow, it's so trite. The only sort of interesting thing about the movie, it just plays around with in a way that doesn't offer any meaning. And this is people accuse me of not liking these movies. I can't imagine why. But I do like the Greek myths. Right. I like the Nordic myths. I like fantastical.
And they compare them a lot. I mean,
they always compare them. The Greek myths use all of these fantastical elements to tell us core truths about our nature and about reality.
And they're vicious. They're filled with death and sex and rape. And,
reality. There is. What core truth about our human nature do we learn from Avengers Endgame? Or any of the other Marvel movies?
You know, the problem is, the answer that I always get, because I have the same problem. I mean, it's not like I won't see a superhero movie. I just don't want to see 10 superhero movies. And people always say to me, well, it's about good and evil. But, good and evil isn't like that at all. Good and evil is much more like Game of Thrones, where the good people are dishonest and evil, and the evil people have good qualities and all that stuff. And I mean, that's much more what good and evil is like, and makes life much more complicated. Whereas these guys, I mean, let's face it, we know who the good guys are. Even the moral questions they ask, like, should I have accidentally killed somebody while saving the universe?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes, you should have. The real bad guys were the executives at Disney and Marvel who forced this kind of piffle on us.
There is something kind of nice. Here's the thing that I like, okay? After Game of Thrones, I watched it last night. It was so, I don't know if you don't watch that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay, so.
I watch all the scenes with Khaleesi. Yeah. I basically just do a supercut of Khaleesi.
They do have a supercut of all the nude scenes. I've never watched it, of course. I've never watched it 5 times. But anyway, they had this battle scene. I'm not going to give anything away, but an amazing battle scene. So amazing that I was in bed before I thought parts of it didn't actually make sense, but still, just so exciting and so much fun, so beautifully directed. Best battle scene since the last battle scene they had. And it's kind of fun. You go on Twitter and people are talking about it. It's nice that there's a story that everybody's involved in. It's nice that there's a story like the Avengers that everybody wants to go see. And it's just some stories are better than others. That's all.
Yes, and some stories are better than others. And you would think that in a movie that cost $1 zillion to make, it's the 20th movie in this franchise or whatever, they would get decent writing. You would think that they would hire a decent writer, they would take it seriously. There's one scene in the movie that I can't describe because it would be a spoiler, that is nearly poignant. It approaches poignancy, and ironically, it just explains why the entire enterprise is frivolous and futile and incoherent. It's that incoherence. It doesn't hold together as a narrative. So you actually have a handful of good acting performances. Scarlett Johansson's great. Robert Downey Jr. is always great. A few of the others. But no amount of good acting is going to make up for a 3-hour incoherent movie.
For obvious reasons, I always have a prejudice in favor of the writers because they don't get to do what's, they don't get to do what they want, essentially. But it is a real problem. There's another franchise, the Conjuring franchise, which is ghost stories. And the first 2 movies were really quite good because a ghost story shouldn't have a lot of violence in it. It just should be spooky, and they kind of were. And then they just got like unbelievably violent. I mean, people being cut in half and crucified. And you thought, like, sorry, but that is the way Hollywood works, because they know if 10 people will show up to watch something really creepy and subtle and scary, 1 million people will show up to watch a guy cut in half and hung on a wall. And I mean, I think that's and if people can appreciate the scary idea, how much more will they appreciate somebody being ripped to pieces? And I think that's true in these stories. I mean, there's no subtlety. There is no subtlety. Even Jacob Airy would.
I think he would admit there's no
subtlety.
We're
not going to let him in because we don't want to hear from him.
Because then I'll be cut in half and torn to pieces.
Yes,
that is such a problem as you go into it, and if that is the central cultural story, how stupid must we all be? How stupid? I mean, I'm not saying there's no room for some big, flashy escapism and gratuitous violence and gratuitous nudity. I'm into it in little doses. But if that is basically the only story we've got, what does that say about us?
This is an interesting thing. My grandson was out over this last week, so even though I couldn't talk, I had somebody to play with, and we all went to Disneyland. Have you been to Disneyland?
No, I've been to Disney World, but not Disneyland.
You go there, and I can remember Disneyland from back when, like, Walt Disney was alive. It's like, but you go there, and it's filled with people who look like Americans now look. They're tattooed, they have weird hair, there are a million different colors, a million different religions. There are people with Mickey Mouse hats that have like rainbow gay symbols on them and all this stuff. So it's like this complete...
I always knew Mickey was gay. I never bought for a minute that he wanted Minnie.
You just have to listen to his voice. But there they are to enjoy Mickey Mouse. I mean, they're still there to enjoy this 50s entertainment, this very clean-cut, very wholesome entertainment. The same thing with the Avengers. Like, those comics are from my childhood. I mean, even before my childhood, I should say. They're back from the 30s, some of them, the 40s they were invented. And so now you have this kind of weird world we live in of everybody's doing his own thing. Everybody looks weird. Everybody's with the tattoos and the nose rings on. But they're still showing up for these stories. And the one thing you think is, like, maybe we should be responsible to those stories. If this is what we love,
Yeah.
if what we love is Mickey Mouse, if what we love is the heroism of the Avengers, maybe we should live a little bit more into those values instead of showing up looking like, 300 pounds tattooed and a ring through my nose, and then watching this story about Captain America. Maybe we should be a little bit more like Captain America.
That's absolutely true. And there is a moment, this has been happening in this franchise for a while, where the political correctness, the overt leftism, really doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
And you can tell they're trying to take this story that's been around for 70 years and turn it in a way that just doesn't hold up.
Right.
But I wonder if some of that, of all these crazy tattooed people who are going to Disneyland, they don't even have kids, they're just in their 30s
Yes,
going to
there's
Disneyland.
a lot of them, yeah.
A lot of people do that. If some of that is just self-indulgence, nostalgia, thinking, 70 years ago, those times were great. When I was a little kid, everything made much more sense.
Yeah.
Our stories made more sense. I want to go back to that. Watching this movie, the entire final act of this movie is nostalgia. And they say nostalgia is history after a couple drinks. That's what you're seeing here. It's this sentimentality, which I think is the enemy of real narrative, of real stories, of reality.
There's no question about it. Sentimentality is the enemy of real emotion. They could be reading Another Kingdom. They could have the novel. They could be listening to your audiobook of Another Kingdom, which is getting great reviews, by the way. But I hope people will go on and order Another Kingdom. Thank you for doing this. I only do it to torture you.
I know that. I know. I was thinking the whole time.
And I only torture you because I hate your guts.
I only do it out of spite.
Spite and meanness.